rights for all.
With affirmation and equal rights for all.
Watch your heads.
That was none other than the other half to Biden Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg leading an indoctrination exercise at a so-called, basically gay kids camp. Woke ideology, though, in our schools is obviously out of control. We talk about it all the time, and it threatens the mental health of America's next generation. At a time when our kids should be learning how to read, write, and do math, since many of them are far behind, they are instead being exposed to a cavalcade of radical sexual degeneracy. But don't worry, they're not coming for your kids, right?
No such thing as parental rights. It's not recognized in law. It's not in the charter. It doesn't exist.
Everyone is talking about indoctrinating our children to death. Welcome to the show, Alex Newman. He's my fellow colleague here at Lindell TV. He also is the host of Conversations That Matter. Alex, it's good to see you, and I'm glad you're joining me. You had me last week, and it was a lot of fun. So thanks for being with us.
It's great to be here. Thank you so much, Emerald.
Look, in your book, you do a great job of documenting not only the woke ideology that's robbing young people of their childhood today, but you give a history of how, as you say, communists and robber barons of the 18th century had a vested interest in dumbing our kids down. I found that argument very interesting. I wasn't aware of a lot of this. So how can you expand on that and explain that to our audience?
Sure, happy to do it, Emerald. And I think this is really one of the biggest misconceptions and myths that we have to kill if we're ever going to make sure that children eventually get a proper education again. Because there's this reigning mythology that there was this golden era of government schools, that they used to be good when my grandparents were there, or maybe my great-grandparents, depending on who you're talking to. The reality is they were always created from the very start to fundamentally transform America, to wage war on Christianity, to wage war on the principles that underpin our republic, our society. And really the turning point was in the early 1900s when John Dewey, an actual communist, this was a guy who went to the Soviet Union and wrote a bunch of articles about how wonderful it was, and they're instilling a collectivistic mentality in the children. These are in the New Republic, by the way. They're still on the website. Teamed up with John D. Rockefeller, the robber baron he also had an interest in dumbing kids down. He had a slightly different end goal in mind. He just wanted, worker drones that would work at the factory without asking too many questions or philosophizing. So you had a communist and a super capitalist get together and really build this atrocity we call today the public school system for the purpose of dumbing down children, for the purpose of indoctrinating them against the principles that made America great. And once people understand that that's the genesis of this system, you realize, wow, arguing with people at my school board is not actually going to fix this. We need more systemic discussions about more systemic solutions.
So what is the solution? Is it to get rid of the public school system altogether? I know a lot of people have been on board with getting rid of the Department of Education. I hear it from tenured professors, retired professors that absolutely needs to happen. And look, that was on the table during the Trump administration. Didn't happen. The conversations talking about getting rid of the Department of Education did occur.
Yeah, and I think that's a good baby step in the right direction, right? Of course, we need to get rid of the Department of Education. It's unconstitutional. It has further destroyed education in America. But I think ultimately the real solution is, let's look at what worked. What did education look like before the government got involved? And we don't have to look back that far. I mean, most American children were not in government schools till the end of World War I. So this is a very new phenomenon in our country. And prior to that, we were the best educated, most literate, most Christian people to have ever existed anywhere on the face of the planet. So we can go back and see, what did our forefathers do that worked so well? What did our forefathers do that led to the creation of the greatest, freest, most prosperous country in human history? And we can try to replicate that. And so, yes, ultimately, long term, I think that is what needs to be the end objective. Now, I recognize that's not going to happen quickly. It took us generations to get here. It's going to be a multi-generational process to get us out of it. But just like the collective farms in the Soviet Union, right? They didn't work. And so the solution was not to reform them. The solution was not to change a policy here or there. The solution was to stop collective agriculture entirely and move back to a system of private property. Well, I think the long-term solution for America needs to be parents need to once again take responsibility for not just feeding and raising and housing their children, but also for educating their children. Parents have a vested interest in making sure their children get a good education, making sure that their children learn the values that they believe in. And, I'm glad that the conversation is moving in this direction. Now, conservatives are talking about what's the best way to get them out. Do we do school choice? Do we just take them out and homeschool? Lots of different options, but I'm pleased with the way this is going. And as an end goal, we've got to eliminate this system and replace it with a better one.
But Alex, I'm not just hearing it from conservative parents. I'm in a blue county. The parents who don't necessarily ideologically align with me, they're not happy with the public schools. They're looking for alternatives when they can.
Yeah, and they should be. I mean, even liberals and Democrats and communists want their kids to learn how to read and do math and think. And, very few parents approve of the idea that their child should be taught that he or she may have been born in the wrong body and that being castrated or having a hysterectomy is going to be a solution to this alleged problem. There are very few people on planet Earth who think that is acceptable. And yet that's what's happening now in government schools across America. So one of the beautiful things about returning to a parent-driven, parent-led free market solution to education is that then everybody can pursue what interests them. Pagans can send their children to pagan schools. Christians can send their children to Christian schools. Atheists can build an atheist school if they can find any people silly enough to send their children there. So we can all have what we want. There's plenty of resources out there to make this happen. Look, the education system is $1 trillion a year monstrosity that is destroying children and ultimately is destroying our country. We have to get rid of it. And really, free markets work in everything else, right? Nobody would accept government-run grocery stores, except in Cuba, maybe. Why do we accept government-run education? It's silly. The Bible calls for parents to be in charge. This is not something government ought to be doing.
And we got about 30 seconds. I understand that you're having a fundraiser tomorrow at Mar-a-Lago related to the topic. Tell us about that real quick.
Yeah, so I have a ministry that I lead as a volunteer executive director. It's called Public School Exit. We're working to raise funding to liberate as many children as possible, as quickly as possible from this system. So we've got a fundraiser at Mar-a-Lago tomorrow. It's been sold out from the first day we announced, but next year we'll have a much bigger one, and we hope to see you there, folks. And this is critical.
Yeah, maybe you don't make it this year, but hopefully next year. Good to see you, Alex Newman. Again, the book is Indoctrinating Our Children to Death. It's good to see you, Alex. Go get the book and share it with a liberal friend. Like I said, it's not just conservatives who are concerned about what's happening in our schools. So it'd be a great book to share with some of your friends who aren't exactly ideologically aligned. Good to see you, Alex.
You too. Thank you so much, Emerald.
And as always, it's good to see you all every day. We'll see you right back here tomorrow with more absolute truth.